It's Wellness Wednesdays. It's Wellness Wednesday. And today we are talking about seeing limitations as strengths. This is not going to be touchy-feely, hug it out kind of stuff. This is going to be real talk. This comes from conversations I've had on Twitter with, Twitter DMs and various other social media sites. I haven't been on social media much lately because I've been attending to my own mental health, but I have checked in and talked to some people, and this is something that I think needs to be said. So if you like this sort of content, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K. Wellness Wednesday type stuff is something I'm going to try to be expanding on in terms of outreach and stuff like that. So there is a real focus in the world about personal improvement, getting better, faster, stronger, tougher, definitely, And to me, well, it's definitely good for everybody to have something they'd like to work on. I think that's actually good for your state of mind and your mental health to have, things you can work on incrementally and get better at, so you can have those, noticeable achievements and build up that sense of accomplishment. I think a lot of people aren't in that healthy pocket. A lot of people just feel terrible all the time because they've basically been told by the world that they need to be something they're not, or else something, right? And everybody has limitations. Everybody has things they're good at and they're not good at. And if you spend all your time focusing on the things you're not good at, guess what? You don't spend a lot of time doing the things you are good at. It's the emotional equivalent of calling your family doctor to fix your toilet. It might be good, probably not. You call a plumber to fix your toilet, right? Your family doctor's a perfectly good doctor. Well, if you have a family doctor, I blank there, and a lot of people watching this channel are American, but that was not a dig. That was just a sensitivity check. But you know what I mean? The metaphor stands. And things like this are the same. Again, this is neurodivergent friendly content, and you can't expect, a person on the autism spectrum or a person with, say, ADHD to respond to things the way a neurotypical person does. The great thing about that is if you learn how people with, various things like this do respond to things, you can form like really great relationships and really fast friendships based on something real, just because you're not following kind of the general, this is what we're supposed to do plot, right? You're actually getting to know someone as a person and liking them as a person and validating and supporting them as a person, and they do the same for you, hopefully, right? And that's an example of taking someone's differences that society may consider a limitation and actually turning it into something good that can, benefit both of you. The only way you can do that, though, is if you get comfortable with your own limitations. And this has been, a very difficult thing for me in my life because of all the different things of, well, that's wrecked because of, various physical limitations. Now what? When I was much younger, I was a competitive dancer, and then my appendix blew up only months before I would have been old enough to turn pro. And that was it. You really can't be a professional dancer when a piece of your large intestine is fused to your small intestine because you had gangrene. Sorry for the overshare. It just, appendix, that's not a big deal. No, in my case, it actually ruptured and it was a big fucking mess and I almost died. So I moved on to other things. I moved on to television comedy. And that ran its course, and then the Canadian television industry imploded, and so I moved on to the internet. And I'd already been doing some gaming stuff, and now I'm doing this Wellness Wednesday stuff. And I mean, a lot of the stuff on Wellness Wednesday is informed by my own personal journey of doors closing and being okay enough eventually with the doors closing to open other doors. And you can't open those doors if you're constantly trying to juggle a whole bunch of other things that people tell you need to be somehow proficient at, and you're just not. It's not your skill. Somebody doesn't have to be the life of the party to socialize, for instance, right? Every time somebody says something like, you're being too sensitive, just toughen up, grow a thicker skin. Why? Right? Our feelings are our feedback system to the world. And if you think that things are hitting you too hard, if you don't want to live the way you're feeling, that's valid and awesome. But do it because you want it, not because somebody is telling you to do it. And that's something a lot of people have real trouble with, because they have trouble knowing where their opinions about themselves end and other people's opinions about themselves begin. Because, there's been that abuse and bullying and lack of boundary integrity and all that stuff. But it is something that can be learned. And there's a big difference between regulating and moderating your feelings and invalidating your feelings. Your feelings are real. They just shouldn't hurt as much as they hurt some people, right? There are ways to check and moderate and keep things so you're still functional. Keep things so they're still regulated, as opposed to getting totally overwhelmed by things. And the only way to do that is to know yourself and how much you can take, and, not feel like you're weak or bad because you have those emotional limits. Emotional limits are like any other limit for a human being. You can only go so long without food, water, or sleep, right? And you have to go to the bathroom occasionally. I mean, that's going to take care of itself one way or another. But, you need food, water, sleep. You also need breaks from things other than sleep. You need downtime. And we live in a world right now where everything is go, 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 hustle, 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 all the bullshit. And I call it bullshit for a reason, because people were not designed to work every waking hour of the day. We weren't just created to be producers, right? We were created to, we came out of the amorphous soup of evolution to have an element of the sublime, stuff we like to do, favorite video games, for instance, favorite movies. How does that do anything? Well, it says something about you, right? It makes you unique. It makes you an individual. And so much of the world, especially in the corporate world, is about standardizing human beings. And that, I'm seeing the results of that in real time and, in real life. And it's starting younger and younger and younger now with this incredibly competitive college applications process. And when I was in high school, you really started sweating it in like grade 11. Now parents are putting pressure on their kids at 14, which is like the 9th grade. No, the teenage years should be about figuring out who you are more than figuring out how to get into the college your parents want you to get into. Because let's face it, you don't know what college you want to go to before you know who you are, right? It doesn't work any other way. And I think a lot of people, because of all that pressure and all that need to achieve academically, not only do, people come out of college with mental health issues, but they also come out of college with physical health issues because sleep and diet and exercise all got sacrificed to a diet of study and Red Bull, right? And in some cases, Adderall. I hate to say that, but Adderall abuse and studying is a thing. That's how ridiculous it's gotten, that people feel like they need drugs to study. It's ridiculous. And that perpetuates into the working world, right? We're bombarded with how competitive things are. And it's so bad that, I'm reading articles right now in the news about how restaurants can't get people to work. And then in the article where they're talking about we have to close on Tuesdays because we don't have enough people to work. And then you see a little detail in the article that they interviewed 30 people for a job at a restaurant and didn't hire anybody. Really? Food service, 30 applicants, not one person you thought deserved a shot? That's the world we live in, and it's hard. It periodically drives me nuts, and I have to step back and recognize my limitations, that I can only eat so much shit for so long before I go, this tastes really bad. And that's me. The fact that I do take in a lot of information from the world is part of what allows me to do these segments, right? Part of what allows me to recontextualize and synthesize information for a group larger and more diverse than the standard self-help thing. But I have to respect me and what makes me unique and what makes me an individual. And that doesn't mean just respecting my strengths. It means respecting my limits. And for me, because of, the appendix thing when I was young, and then the issues with my hands and, the autoimmune stuff and all that stuff, for me, limitations are very obvious and very real, but in some ways that makes it easier for me. I have a permission structure from the world to go, you know what? I don't have the spoons for this today, right? For people who have things that aren't quite so visible, it's harder. There's a lot of pressure. I mean, there's still a lot of pressure on me. I go past my limits far too often, and I'm trying to be better at it. But for somebody who, has an invisible disability or is apparently able-bodied or all that stuff, and I think in some ways there's greater pressure on men to just go than women. I mean, you don't see, the sort of spa day trope with men. I think we need some sort of spa day trope for men. Maybe I should invest in a business and it's like a spa, but instead of all the frou-frou shishi stuff, it's a video game thing on a giant ass screen. Or I don't know, I'm being stereotypical right now, but personally I would find this kind of more fun than, I don't know, a Swedish body butter rub or whatever they claim costs $200 at one of these things. Not that I don't like my massages and all that stuff, but I recommend that spas are sort of overpriced. We need male pampering in some way. Anybody got any suggestions for the male equivalent of a spa day? Like I said, I know I'm being totally stereotypical now, but I'm thinking about what I would like, right? Please give me your suggestions for this, because I might try it. But you know what I mean? The point is that there is no permission structure for a lot of men to take those pauses. And that's not good. We used to have more structured community religious stuff of, the day of rest kind of thing, a day that broke up the week and everybody wasn't supposed to do anything because you went to church on Sunday, and then you had like, the brunch, or I don't know. The brunch is what you have when you go to synagogue. But what happens in churches now? I'm not sure. It seems like there's brunches. I mean, I've been to a few things, and no, everybody just kind of goes home, don't they? I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. But it's that sort of thing where there are those structures to get the break. But it seems like more and more those are eroding. And, when you think about the fact that human beings evolved to work during daylight, and then, at night, things move because you couldn't see enough. Now we have like electric lights and much longer work days, and it's a artificial existence, and there's really good things and really not good things about that. The goal is to take the good things out of it, like video games, and take the constant rat race treadmill. Is rat race even a thing anymore? But the treadmill of constantly go, the hustle. You got your main hustle and you got 6 side hustles. And again, I'm speaking about myself, but there are times you have to stop and just be a human being. And that is not weakness. That is you. Those boundaries, those capacities, those moments where you get to do what you like to do, not what you have to do, those create the guardrails, the pathway to figuring out what's going to make you feel happy and fulfilled. If your work makes you happy and fulfilled, that's great. But a properly filled employee isn't spending every hour of their day at work like tech companies have people do. These tech companies are really happy for people to, go home to the one room in a house they share in the Bay Area because rents are ridiculously expensive, and then go in, have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at work, and then go home. That is not a life. You are not going to get the best product out of somebody doing that simply because, what's missing? Well, any sort of exercise, sufficient daylight sometimes goes by the wayside. Non-work socialization, being with people that you just like as people, not someone you're trying to get something from. Oh my God, that is a lost art. Can we please bring back friendships and not just networking? I'm serious. Like, if you can't think of a friend you have that isn't somehow like someone you're looking to get something from, that's not an indication you're a bad person. That's an indication that you're investing too much in career or business or whatever you're looking to do, and not just being a person. And I really do think more and more and more people don't know how to just be people anymore. They don't know how to be individuals. And that's why these identity issues are so massive. Like massive, to the point that I am getting really disturbed by it. Because, I've been thinking a lot about this, and then I talk about the comic book characters and stuff like that I like growing up. And, I said to someone today, I said, I never identified with the female comic book characters growing up because I wasn't thin or pretty enough. I was like the monster dudes. Those are my people. The Thing, Beast, characters like that. Guys who were really awesome. And, in Beast's case, a freaking genius. but because of their outsides, people prejudged them and people didn't give them a chance. And I just thought, those would be awesome people to know. Anybody who can quote Shakespeare hanging upside down is pretty awesome. And, the Thing, okay, the cigar, but the Thing's freaking awesome, man. Like, the Thing is such a salt of the earth kind of character that you want a guy like that around, and he looks freaking cool to me. But, did I feel like I didn't have representation because there weren't characters that looked like me? More so in live action media. So like TV and stuff like that. I wanted, if somebody's playing like a medical secretary, why do they look like a model? Why can't they look like a medical secretary? That kind of thing. Why can't nurses actually look like nurses and not, again, like actors playing nurses? But with comic books, I never kind of felt the same need, which is weird because when I got into cosplay, it's like, the first female character I really, really, really connected with was Power Girl. That was the character that made me realize, hey, I might not be fat. I might just be well endowed. But, somebody doesn't need to look like you to validate you. And this collectivist, it has to be a girl of the same race as me. It's never, I get it, but I don't get it at the same time. Like, I used to hate being compared to Annie and Pippi Longstocking as a kid, right? Lion-O, I was good with, because Lion-O was cool. I always just felt like people were saying, oh, you must like these characters because they were girls. And no, I didn't. I didn't see myself in those characters. Tila? Yeah, Tila was awesome. But again, did I see myself in Tila? No, because she was not a fat kid. So, these identifiers, sure, we should get more stuff for people to like because there should be more stuff for people to like. But I don't think that people should be limited in liking stuff that looks like them. Okay, in fairness, growing up, we kind of had Barbie. There was no Bratz dolls or American Girl. They hadn't diversified. It was blonde chick and then brunette chick. And I think they introduced I was more into Gem and the Holograms because they had cool blue and red and purple hair. They also had more racial diversity at the time than Barbie and the Rockers did, right? But I took the Gem dolls and made them into space explorers with those stands. I wasn't stuck in the cartoon. But that's because, even then, people didn't have to fit into the boxes that people have now. We were allowed to go, you don't like this person, you don't like this person, you two stay away from each other, separate sides of the room. It wasn't, we all have to be friends, we're all on the same team. We had movies like The Breakfast Club that were about the losers in a school. Okay, they were all very pretty people, but it was still about the rejects. Movies like Weird Science and Back to the Future. And, it was a cooler time to be an outcast in the 80s than I think we gave ourselves credit for. Now it's not that way. Fitting in is survival now. Even people who claim they don't really care about fitting in, they're on subreddits and they're referring to opinion movements as identities. And it's like, oh my God, why can't you just be person, individual? And then I realized it's because people have been given the idea that they can't. They can't just be a person. They can't be an individual. They've been given the message that no individual can stand against the onslaught in this world. That's no way to live. You can't be only part of a collective. You need an awareness of where you end and other people begin. And, that's part of the reason I try to be kind with people who get involved in like this culture war stuff and slap an identity on themselves. And it's like, okay, call yourselves whatever you want. I'm going to deal with you as an individual. And if you're cool, we're cool. I don't care what your modifier is, gaming term, like whatever. I don't care what's in your Twitter bio if you're a decent person to me. And, you're a decent person to others, right? And I think that's why I find so much of the online fighting and the political fighting so exhausting, because it is swallowing up individuals in these RVR fights, It's not a PvP anymore. It's one big faction versus another big faction. Realm versus realm, RVR. Sorry, people who don't know like deep lore MMO terms. And I'm really concerned about the impact, as I said, that these feeling like you need some sort of collectivist identity / anonymity to be safe. I'm really worried about that. And here's why, okay? If you're anonymous, you are anonymous. You're not an individual, you're an anon, right? No matter what anime profile pic you put up there, right? Or CalArts profile pic you put up there or whatever. In order to be validated, you need to be counted as an individual. You need things about you that people know, that are knowable, that people can reject, yes, but also that people can accept. And I think people, to spill over from last week, people spend so much time avoiding rejection that they cut themselves off from acceptance. And I know there's a bunch of people, they started as, I shitlord type things, but the longer I talk to them, the more it's like, okay, their icon says something about them, and you learn little details about them, and they're not an anonymous person anymore. They're a person. And they're real people. And, there are assholes in every identity group. There are great people in every identity group, which is why it's really important to get to know people as an individual and as them as an individual. You know what I mean? Like, because yes, that's letting people see your weaknesses. That's letting people see your limitations. If you don't ever let that guard down, you're never going to feel accepted, and you may even find, I find this with neurodivergent people all the time. I love working with neurodivergent people. It's my personal bias, because teams with neurodiversity come up with better ideas. People come up with ideas that other people wouldn't have thought of because their brains work differently. And especially in video games, you want a product that's going to appeal to the neurodivergent as well as the neurotypical, right? It's video games. So it's really, more and more, the more it's like, wow, these are people with really kind of cool brains. But yes, real limitations, right? Real anxiety, I'm not doing the autism as a superpower thing, right? I'm not doing the ADHD as a superpower thing. Those are real struggles. Those are real challenges. But you have to accommodate the challenges and give people that space, and maybe take a little extra time on something because someone's feeling overstimmed, or they're having a thing. Give them that, because of what you get, because of the good things they bring to the table. It's amazing how well that works, and I don't know why every company doesn't do it. So figure out your limitations, figure out how to like them as part of you, like my squishy little hands, right? I also have abnormally tiny ears, but that doesn't affect me in any real way, except with glasses. Things tend to, earbuds are a problem. But anyway, identify your limitations, figure out how they work for you, and build that. Don't work around them, work with them. Build that into your experience. And what you'll end up doing is yes, some people will reject you for it. But the people that don't will appreciate you for you. And you'll appreciate you for you in a whole new level. And speaking of whole new level, I'm really interested in those suggestions about like typical male versions of spa day, because I want in on that. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Spa days are boring. Thanks for watching.